Hi there. Today on Lydia's Books, I've got a huge stack. It's a book haul. It was an unexpected book haul because these books come from like 4 or 5 different places. And, I mean, God, there's more on the way. Well, one more on the way. One that I ordered myself because it goes part and parcel with the Splatterpunk zine reviews that I'm going to be doing. I've ordered a Jack Bantry anthology that is a reprint of some of those Splatterpunk things. So coming up next, there will be a video where I talk about Splatterpunk zine, and I'll do issue by issue. But for now, it's a whole bunch of books. Now, I've got some really special finds in here that were just surprises to me. We've got some Splatterpunk books first, very hard to find Splatterpunk at that. Paperbacks From Hell, that's very hard to find. And as usual, a whole bunch of horror adjacent goodies and some very old collectibles too. So yes, where will we start? We will start with what I'm reading right now. Liz Worth, The Mouth is a Coven. I'm liking it. I'm taking a little time to read it because it is quite dense. This is a Liz Worth book that is in that vein of the more dense wordplay and iconography, and it really makes you think. I had to slow down quite a bit. This is edging on weird fiction, but it has to do with a bunch of youths, disenfranchised youths in a small town. I really have an affinity with a lot of these people already, and I'm only about like a fifth of the way in. That's in 3 sittings to get that far in the book, and it's not because I'm not enjoying it. It's because I read a little and I put it down, and I'm taken aback, and I have to think. So this is taking me a little longer than I thought it would take to get through it, not because it's unenjoyable, but because it takes up a lot of headspace. Go figure. The other thing that I'll be reading once I see this film is the most recent issue of Rue Morgue magazine. I've not seen Obsession. I've not seen Undertone, 2 really popular horror movies that are out recently. I don't think they talk about Undertone in this, but maybe they will in the next issue. And if you ever wonder why I talk about Rue Morgue whenever I pick up a new copy or have a new copy sent to me, because I'm a subscriber, is this 28 Years of Horror Canadian magazine. I can't get enough of it. So yeah, good people, good writing, good horror. Very excited to watch Obsession and eventually read the rest of this, because we've both flipped through it here and there like we typically do when the cover has to do with a film we haven't watched yet, like the Nosferatu issue. Sat here for like a month before we read it, but yeah, that's what happens. Rue Morgue. So first things first, we had headed to a little town near here called Stittsville for a book fair, which turned out to be not the sort of book fair that I wanted to go to that day. It was just a very, very small press, micro press book fair, and I was looking for horror, and there typically isn't a lot of horror at those things. If I was looking to go to something like the Ottawa Small Press Book Fair that day, it was a lot of the same vendors. I had recently gone to the Ottawa Small Press Book Fair, so there just wasn't a lot for us. But there is reread new books, or reread new books. I'm not sure how they want to pronounce it. They have an online catalog as well, which I really loved during the pandemic. So once we didn't have to wear masks anymore, I could go freely to this bookstore, and I absolutely love it because they always have a pretty decent little horror section. It seems to be diminished right now because they have recently opened up a second location in town here, which I haven't gone to yet. But I thought, we're in the town, we'll stop there. And I did get a really nice Nancy Kilpatrick book. This is, I think, the second in a 3-book series, but it's fine. I'll collect some Nancy Kilpatrick whenever I see it. R.I.P. to Nancy Kilpatrick as well. This is Near Death, Power of the Blood World. Right beside it, I saw these Brian Horeck books. And if you are Canadian and a horror writer, you are probably aware of Brian Horeck. He was a DIY self-publishing horror writer well before that sort of thing existed. He was Amazon KDP before that existed. He basically vanity pressed his way into the horror world because he started with his Frozen Beneath book about aliens. It's a Northern Ontario writer writing about Northern Ontario things. My mom bought the book because he had huge billboards around town and you couldn't avoid it, right? So you went into whatever bookstore that he had sold his stock to because he had them printed himself. He had no publisher, no editor at the beginning, or friend editors or whatever. and he forced his wares upon bookstores in the area. So my mom picked it up. She said it wasn't very good, to the point that it had her laughing. But we became Brian Horeck fans nevertheless. And later on, in later publications of Frozen Beneath, from what I understand, he did retain the services of an editor, and it is a much tighter book. Minnow Trap is his other one, and we've got Minnow Trap 2. I'm very excited to get to reading these. Now, I do have an article on my blog about Brian Horeck, just sort of a little look back. It's not hugely journalistic. It's just like my impressions on Brian Horeck and his writing journey, and what I could glean about the ownership of the billboards and things like that, and some photos of the billboards that I took, because one still exists at least. Quite a few of them have been taken down. These are later versions of Minnow Trap and Minnow Trap 2, so these are definitely like sold on Amazon, because after he had printed so many of his own books and been going at it on his own, he did bust into Amazon, KDP, like most self-published authors do. He was doing it well before, so he already knew the game. He probably did extremely well on Amazon, and these are the proof of the pudding. One summer on a northern Ontario lake, 3 longtime fishing and hunting buddies stumble upon some strange circular engravings upon a rocky plateau. That sort of thing actually exists where he would have been fishing. They soon discover some bizarre and frisky little creatures caught in a minnow trap in a remote beaver pond. It is only after a few more occurrences that the Russian army officer convinces them that all this is in fact extraterrestrial related, with similar events also occurring in Latvia. It soon becomes an international dilemma, with a worldwide support team behind them. As the chaos erupts, they find themselves in horrifying fight with other creatures. With only their individual skills and knowledge of the hunting area, can they rid the world of this hellish nightmare. Obviously not, because there's a Minnow Trap too. But yeah, I was very pleased to find some Brian Horeck. I really need another copy of Frozen Beneath because I don't have it anymore. Then in the same area is the Stittsville Flea Market, and there used to be a much larger Stittsville Flea Market from what I understand, and now it is a lot smaller. What's weird is it's not open on Saturdays, but as we drove by we realized it was open, so we thought we would go in. We didn't know it wasn't supposed to be open, so it was just very weird. But yes, there is a huge selection of used books like there typically is, and there is a huge selection of all the Nancy Drews. I picked up other Nancy Drews and seen the full collection at the Watson's Mill bookshop nearby, but I'll probably be returning because I had decided I don't want to buy the whole Nancy Drew collection. I want to buy 1 or 2 copies of the specific black topped edge editions of the 50s editions and read through them as I go. So I've caught 1 and 2 on the shelves, 3 and 4 here, which is number 3, The Bungalow Mystery, which I remember quite well, and The Mystery at Lilac Inn. Although my copy of The Bungalow Mystery had a different cover when I was a kid. So while I was there, I had seen that they had some of the old original 1930s editions, so I picked up The Secret of the Old Clock. I'm not interested in really collecting all of them, but this is interesting to me because I am writing a little bit of a Nancy Drew kind of short story idea for fun. So I thought I would use this. But yeah, it's nice to see the old Nancy Drew versions. So yeah, we're not even to the really collectible stuff either. This is just kind of mildly collectible. So maybe number 3 on my list that I was mentioning, horror adjacent, mildly collectible, nice old books to have. Same with the Brian Horeck stuff, just nice old books to have. Then some books came in the mail, which I will get to last on the list. Those are the Splatterpunk highly collectible, really cool finds. Oh my gosh. So I will get to them in a second, but flash forward to the weekend when we go to the Mammoth book sale. The library puts on a huge book sale here basically every month, and it's hit or miss. Sometimes there's not a lot of horror, sometimes there's fun stuff. I found this nice Riley Sager. It's in mint condition. It's unlike that Riley Sager book I picked up with cheesy stains and squished bugs and bookers in it. Remember that one I threw in the trash? This one was nice and clean. I double checked to make sure no one ate food while reading it. Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. I've not read it, so I'm quite interested. The worst thing to ever happen on Hemlock Circle occurred in Ethan Marsh's backyard. One July night, 10-year-old Ethan and his best friend and neighbor Billy fell asleep in a tent set up on a manicured lawn in a quiet, quaint New Jersey cul-de-sac. In the morning, Ethan woke up alone. During the night, someone had sliced open their tent with a knife and taken Billy. He was never seen again. 30 years later, Ethan has reluctantly returned to his childhood home. Plagued by bad dreams and insomnia, he begins to notice strange things happening in the middle of the night, hence the title of the book. Someone seems to be roaming the cul-de-sac at odd hours, and signs of Billy's presence keep appearing in Ethan's backyard. Is someone playing a cruel prank, or has Billy, long thought to be dead, somehow returned to Hemlock Circle? I like this because I did spend time as a kid, not on a cul-de-sac. We had a dead-end street, though, camping out on my yard with friends. So, yeah, I really like this. I like the cover of it. A house on the cover. It looks creepy. It's got those creepy kind of ochre and black tones. The green text, kind of sets it all off and screams horror. Even though he's typically a thriller writer, I consider this horror adjacent, as fun as a Nancy Drew. Not fun at all. Missing from the Village by Justin Ling. I've been looking forward to a true crime story. The story of serial killer Bruce McArthur and the search for justice in the system that failed Toronto's queer community. If you recall, I had read the fiction book Red X, knowing that it had something to do with this story of Bruce McArthur and all of the missing men, specifically gay men from the Village community in Toronto. And I wanted something different out of that book. It was a fine book, just not for me. So we'll go true crime with it. And this might be a little harrowing, and it'll be sad, and it will be aggravating. Dr. Lee Miller, friend and acquaintance, had a really good podcast at the time where he interviewed some of the survivors, the last people that Bruce McArthur was around. And it was just a harrowing story all told. And there was a friend of mine from school whose sister had been murdered in the area as well. So all of those things sort of culminate for me and make it even more sad. So I don't know when I'll get to this. It will have to be a very dreary weekend when I'm feeling tough. I thought that would be the end of the gems at the library book sale, but I went and looked at the sort of vintage section. I thought I'll pick up some little chapbook type stuff. Down and Out in Paris and London by George Orwell, which will go really good with People of the Abyss by Jack London, which I really enjoyed. And maybe it won't be as harrowing as all that, and it's taking place at a later time, but he's still down and out. And Machiavelli the Prince, I thought that would be a nice addition to the old section of my bookshelf. It's got about the right look. It's a Penguin classic, which I don't own a lot of. And then this one jumped out at me. And I couldn't believe exactly what I was seeing at the time. And I thought, well, where's the Paperbacks From Hell logo? It's Such Nice People by Sandra Scoppettone. And I really, really I'm looking forward to reading this. This was a book that years ago, Alex, the Bookubus, had reviewed on her channel. And I believe that Sam at Night Nerves talked about it recently too. It is being reissued, or has been, by Valancourt Books through the agreement, which is now ending. By the by, if you haven't picked up all of the Paperbacks From Hell reprints, you do so now because they're basically done with that project. And they've chosen all of the books that they are going to reprint. Such Nice People was one of them, but holy monkeys, was I glad to pick this up. It's going for between $10 and $60, somewhere in there. There's not a lot of these paperbacks to be had because I believe people have put a little bit of a run on it since it was announced as a Paperback From Hell in the book and announced as a reprint from Valancourt. Those who like to collect, collected. And I got this for $2. So I was so blown away, so pleased. And I will echo Alex's sentiments to say, check out library book sales, man. There's always, not always, there's sometimes a super duper gem like this. I am very, very pleased and looking forward to it quite a lot. It is in almost mint condition. It has been squared. It looks like it's just been stored under weight, and it was stored, I think it was stored nicely in a bookshelf. It maybe have been read once. Its spine is very, very tight, which makes me think it's either maybe never been read and just shelved and reshelved to get a little bit of wear and tear here and there, or it was like pressed to make it look a little more unread than it is. There is a little bit of a crease on the back, but it has been flattened out, probably creased once and put back on the shelf nicely to keep the crease from becoming any more damaged. But yeah, Tom Noah, president of the senior class, captain of the basketball team. Life was opening its arms before him, but Tom could only think of death. As Christmas drew closer and his relatives made their holiday plans, Tom, tormented by the voices in his head, made his own plans to murder his whole family. Only Kit, his favorite sister, could be allowed to live. All the others would perish. And that was the way it had to be. As Tom raced toward his destiny, each member of the Nash family became aware that something was terribly wrong, though nobody was quite sure what to do about it. Everything would be better after the holidays, they thought, if they could make it through the holidays alive. I don't want to hold off till Christmas to read this, to be honest. I want to read it right now. So we'll see if I do hold off until Christmas to read it, alongside maybe Hell House, a nice Christmas pick. So if you've seen on my Instagram, I had a little mention, a little quotation of a little line that I thought was quite striking and well written from Bitch Fight by Patrick Lestewka. This is a necro publication chapbook, one of the 4 of 5 duet series of chapbooks that they did. Edward Lee and Patrick Lestewka, and the story Mother by Edward Lee is kind of fun. I feel like I'd read it before for whatever reason, but maybe I have. It could be in one of his collections that I own. But Bitch Fight I definitely never read before and absolutely loved it. Like a cyberpunk extreme horror story. Super brutal. If you like MMA fighting and want to see that in extreme horror, that's in there as well. So super gory cyberpunk MMA extreme horror from Patrick Lestewka, who is no longer writing. Patrick Lestewka is the pen name of Craig Davidson, who you may know by his other pen name of Nick Cutter, who has a really cool book out, The Dorians, which is getting really good reviews right now, which I'll be picking up soon. There was an offer to pick things like The Queen and other Nick Cutter books, Little Heaven, which I have on my shelves and still need to read. I'll be bringing some of the more recent Nick Cutter books to DreadCon, hopefully getting some signed. But for now, he had mentioned on his Instagram that some Patrick Lestewka titles, which are out of print, would be part of a sale to raise money for turtle care and rehoming turtles. It was an effort to clean up his parents' basement. So, yes, I was very pleased to be able to secure something. What I really wanted was Patrick Lestewka's book, The Preserve. He is, or was, when he was writing as Patrick Lestewka, one of the only real, extreme horror Canadian authors that's about my age that I really wanted to read stuff of, but by the time I discovered it was collectible, out of print, hard to find. And I mean, there are pirated versions here and there. I could go to Godless and read PDFs of things, but I wanted to see some of this in the flesh, and I've been able to. Quite Rare Vehicles by Patrick Lestewka. This is a really nice little hardcover that I am just so very pleased. They're all numbered, and these are publisher's copies. Yeah, first edition Vehicles 2011, Craig Davidson, cover artwork by GAC, which is a really cool cover art in this particular one from Delirium Books. Very, very pleased. Huge thanks to Craig Davidson and his family for having the sale, raising money for turtles, allowing fans to get really, really sought after things. Imprint by Patrick Lestewka. Another little story. There's other Patrick Lestewka out there, of course. So yeah, I am very, very happy to own a signed, rare couple of books by Patrick Lestewka. I was so pleased with Bitch Fight, and I own 1 or 2 of the other Necro Dark Delights, Dark Duets thing in Partners in Chime. And there's another one, I think, with a Gerard Warner book or story in it, I think, that I have on my shelf. Speaking of my shelves, I really need to get another Billy bookcase because I just discovered that whole shelf is doubled. So there's a whole row of hardcovers and trade paperbacks behind it that I had forgotten about entirely. I really need to clean up, and I need to clean up to make room for these. So if you own The Preserve by Patrick Lestewka, let me know what you think of it in the comments below, let alone any of these fine books. I'm very much looking forward to reading Vehicles. I really am going to read The Preserve. I could access a copy. It is on Godless as well, but I will keep my eyes out for a hard copy. But yeah, hard to find copy at that. I am so very pleased, but yeah, a lot of real rarities here. A little bit of cool Nancy Drew, amazing, very rare, hard to find Canadian extreme horror in these Patrick Lestewka books, and Such Nice People by Sandra Scoppettone. I mean, I couldn't have been any luckier. I think that's the thing, is that when people say that collectors spend too much or that the consumerism's out of control, I mean, when you go to one of these little sales and you're like, well, I'm just going to pick up a book or two, and you pick up some things that are very interesting to you, some things that are nice light reads like a Riley Sager or true crime, and then you stumble upon little antique vintage Penguin books that you want to add to your library, and then you see something that makes the whole trip worthwhile. Do you put all the other books back and pick up the $2 copy of the highly collectible Paperback From Hell and take only that home? No, you keep the other books in your hands. If a opportunity like this comes along, do you say no? Do you not do what you can to secure these really collectible books? Do you cancel the shipments of your other like Jack Bantry anthologies? No, you keep them all coming, right? So yeah, I need another bookshelf. If you have picked up any of these fine books, or if there's things like these books that you've been really searching for, let me know in the comments below. I do feel sorry for many people who have been searching for this book that I found a copy for $2. I wish that everyone could. I wish that for people who have been seeking old Patrick Lestewka that they could have been as lucky. I was not as lucky as I hoped to be because I didn't secure a copy of The Preserve. I was 4 hours behind. He posted the reel on Instagram announcing this book sale. 4 hours later, some of the really collectible stuff was spoken for, of course. So yeah, I was just really lucky. So that is it for a Little May book haul where I didn't even plan on buying any books and just sort of dabbled around and got extremely lucky. Coming up next, I'll be talking about Splatterpunk zine as advertised and as promised. I've read the first issue again, and I'm very much looking forward to issue 2, so that will be out soon. Thank you ever so much for watching, and have an ooky, spooky day.